A very good morning. Today I am there with a new topic in front of you, and the topic is about the subject and object. Into English, we have already discussed about the subject and object from so many years from a standard one. But here into German, the entire German grammar is very much dependent onto the concept of subject and object. That is our main important pillars. Nominative, accusative, dative, they both or all three rather are dependent onto the subject and object. So let's discuss what do you mean by the subject and what do you mean by the object, and accordingly a summarized session today we'll be having on nominative, accusative and dative. Before we move ahead, the very important thing which we should be having up a clear idea about is the transitive verb and the intransitive verb. What do you mean by a transitive verb and intransitive verb? So, transitive verb is the verb which definitely require an object. I repeat, transitive verbs are the verbs which definitely require an object. An intransitive verb are the verb which does not require an object. Like for example, when I say the doctor treats the patient, doctor is the main identity in the sentence and the patient is the another identity in the sentence. But when I'm putting up transitive verb and the intransitive verbs, transitive verbs definitely require an object. Now, what do you mean by that? If I make a few sentences, listen the sentences very carefully. Peter purchases, Maria requires, they order, a question mark is coming. What do they order? What does Maria buy? What does Peter require? There is something a missing part into the sentence. So we are discussing is transitive verb definitely require an object. Peter purchases a table, meaning is complete. Maria requires a laptop. The sentence is complete. They order the snacks. So there is something, a continuity in the sentence, and it has a meaning because transitive verbs definitely require an object. But on the other side, when I come up with the intransitive verb does not require an object. Like for example, Peter sleeps there. There is only one identity, Peter, and that is the subject. It doesn't require an object. Peter stands there. The meaning is complete. I don't require any other object or any other identity in the sentence to complete the meaning. So here, when I come up into intransitive verb, it does not require an object. So let's have a few more examples. Peter has a house. So now into these sentences, let's analyze and identify what is the subject and what is the object. So Peter has a house. So Peter is one identity and house is another identity. In the next one, Peter thanks his mother. Peter is first identity, his mother is another identity. Subject and object are two different identities in the sentence. They are two different things into the sentence. So here, Peter is one identity and house is another identity. So here in the second one, Peter is first identity, mother is another identity. One is a doer in the sentence, and on the second one, the work is done, so that is an object. If I put it up, doctor treats the patient, doctor is the main identity in the sentence, so the main identity is always a subject. and on whom the work is done, that is an object. I eat a pizza. So I is the subject and pizza is the object. So with the same thought, let's go into the third sentence. His mother is a doctor. Now, his mother, one identity, doctor, another identity, or let's analyze. There are two nouns. Mother is first noun, doctor is the second noun. But are they having up the subject and object into the sentence? Majority students will be telling me mother is subject and doctor is object. But unfortunately, sorry, the answer is mother is subject and doctor is also the subject. There is no object into the sentence. I repeat, mother is subject and doctor is also the subject. There is no object into the sentence because doctor indicates to the same body that's the mother. There are no two different identities into the sentence. There is only and only one identity, that is the mother. So there is only and only subject into the sentence. There is no object into the sentence. So the same clarification I have mentioned here. In the first and second sentence, there are two different identity nouns. In the first one, Peter is first identity, house is second identity. Again, in the second one, Peter is first identity, mother is another identity. But in the third sentence, there is only and only one identity, that is subject, because mother and doctor represents only one identity. There is no object into the sentence. On the same lines, the last sentence, this is my pen. Identify the subject and the object. Many students answer me that is, there is no subject in the sentence, there is only object in the sentence. Sorry, into this sentence there is only and only one identity, that is my pen. So when there's only one identity, that has to be a subject. There cannot be a sentence with only a object but not a subject. First identity, the first main important identity is always and always subject. You might think that is, sir, my pen is an object, it is a non-living thing. So how I will put it up? That is no. In the subject and object category, there is nothing as such as living and non-living. Please remember that. When I put it up here into the last sentence, this is my pen, there is only and only one identity, there is only one noun, that is my pen, and that has to be the subject. I suppose the subject and object topic is clear. Let's move ahead with the same clarification, with the same thought. So let's go ahead. Yeah, on to the next slide. I have a for you is a subject case that is called up as nominative case. So now again into the nominative, I have also specified that is intransitive verb. Intransitive verb matlab there is an only a subject, there is no object into the sentence. So when I come up into nominative, what is the article system? For masculine, I have a there. For feminine, I have a be. For neutral, I have up is das, and for plural, the. So that is there, the, das, the. On the same grounds, indefinite article, that is a or an, masculine ein, feminine eine, neutral ein. On the same lines, possessive pronomen, that is I, my, you, your, that is ish, mine. When I come up with that, so what is into the masculine? Mine, Vater, meine Mutter. Mine Mädchen, that is my girl or my child. It can be mein Kind, it can be, and in the plural, meine Kinder. So for the subject case, the main part into the sentence, I use a nominative. So for the nominative, I have specified that is there, the, das, the, eine, and all, and into the possessive, that is mine, mine. For the feminine, I add an extra e. For the plural, I add an extra e. On the same lines, I have also mentioned the table for du, thine, sein, es, sein, and all for the remaining possessive pronomen. So let's move ahead and have some examples. On to the next slide I have up is here few sentences I have specified where there is an only and only subject into the sentence. So that is nominative case and again intransitive verb. So here Peter won't hear. There is only and only one identity, that is a Peter, and that is the subject for me. On the same line, das is meine Schwester, that is my sister. There is only and only one identity in the sentence, and that is the subject. But into the third one, Herr Vincent won't in Pune. Mr. Vincent stays in Pune. So Mr. Vincent is first identity. Second identity in Pune. But now, very important students, when I say that is in Pune, before this Pune, this identity, I have a preposition. Whenever I have a preposition before the noun, that noun never comes into the subject and object category. I repeat, whenever I have a preposition before the noun, that noun never ever comes into subject and object category. So here into the third sentence, Mr. Vincent won't in Pune. There is only and only one identity, that is Mr. Vincent, that is your subject. There is no object into the sentence. Onto the same lines, the fourth one, das Kind schreit für das Spielzeug. That is, the child screams or cries for the toy. So now many students would put it up that is, das Kind is your subject and das Spielzeug is object. Sorry, there is only one identity into the sentence, and that is das Kind, that is a subject. Spielzeug cannot be a object because before Spielzeug there is a preposition. Whenever I have a preposition before the noun, that never ever comes into the category of subject and object. On the same line, the last sentence, mein Bruder is Kaufmann von Beruf. My brother is businessman by profession. If I put it up the subject and object into the sentence, now there is no object into the sentence. My brother is one identity. Kaufmann is indicating towards the same identity, that is my brother, because my brother and businessman, they are not two different things, they are representing towards one identity only. So there is only subject. And when I come up into the last part, that is von Beruf, before Beruf is a noun, but very important, before Beruf, I have a preposition. And when I have a preposition before the noun, then I do not have or do not come into the category of subject and object. So these were the few examples about the subject case, that is nominative. So with the same thing, let's move ahead. Here I am coming up with the object. When I come up with the object, for the object I have up that is accusative and dative. I repeat, in the last slides we did up that is for the subject I use up nominative. What was nominative? That is there, thee, das, thee. That is masculine, that is there, feminine, thee, das, neutral, and thee. That is that table I'll be using, that is for the subject case. But now when I have of the object, for the object I have that is accusative and dative. So when accusative I will be using, when dative I'll be using, so we'll be discussing now onto that. So let's check it out first into this slide, a bit of revision of subject and object. So the first sentence, Peter hat einen Computer. So Peter is first identity, the main identity, that's the subject, einen Computer, another identity, that is your object. On the same grounds, Maria besucht ihre alte Wohnung. Besuchen is to visit. So Maria visits her old flat. First identity, Maria ihre alte Wohnung. Second identity, and that is an object. Third sentence, Peter and Maria gratulieren ihrer Lehrerin. That is, Peter and Maria congratulate their teacher. Peter and Maria, first identity. Their teacher is the second identity. So, Peter and Maria is the subject, and ihrer Lehrerin is the object. Last one. Frau Maria schickt ihrer Freundin eine Uhr. The translation is Mrs. Maria sends a watch to her friend. What all nouns we have up, what all identities we have up is the first identity is Frau Maria. That is the main identity, that is the subject. But when I come into the object, I have up two objects. The first object is ihrer Freundin, second object is eine Uhr. So here we have up two objects. So one object will be accusative, one will be dative. We'll be discussing onto that into the coming slide. But let me just summarize this slide. Onto this slide, what we have checked out, the more practice on subject and object. So for the object, I have with accusative also and dative also. But when accusative, when dative, like for example, the first sentence and the second sentence I have used for the object is accusative, einen Computer, ihre alte Wohnung, I have used up accusative. But the third one I have used up is dative into the sentence because why dative? Because gratulieren is my dative verb. Hat and bizu, haben and besuchen, they are my accusative verbs. So I've used up accusative. The last one, chicken, is a verb which is a common verb, which is a double object verb, which is a two object verb. So one will be accusative, one will be dative. So we'll be discussing onto that into the coming slides. So let's move ahead onto the next slide. On the next slide I have for you is the object case, that is accusative. Now into the table, if we compare the subject and the object, subject is that is nominative, object is now accusative, and very important what I have specified here is the transitive verbs, because transitive verbs are the verb will definitely require an object. But what is the difference into nominative and accusative? Into nominative I had up was der Mann, die Frau, das Kind, and the Eltern. There is an only and only change into masculine. Only that masculine der changes to den, ein changes to einen, mein changes to meinen. Remaining die, das, die, eine, Frau, ein Kind, eine. Sorry, here it has to be meine. Meine Mutter, mein Mädchen, meine Kinder, they all are same. The main difference between nominative and accusative is that there changes to den. Ein changes to einen, mine changes to meinen. So for the object I will be using up is this accusative table. And transitive verbs require an object. So let's move ahead with the same thought with some sentences so it will be more clear for us. So this is a list of pure accusative verbs. They all are transitive verbs. Transitive verbs, matlab they definitely require an object. So whenever I have of these verbs into the sentence, I will be using accusative table, that is there changes to then, ein changes to einen, mine changes to meinen. These all verbs, if you would pay attention, like for example, besuchen, to visit, I visit. What do you visit? Which place do you visit? Or if I put it up, that is, I find good, or I find the table good. So they definitely require an object. So these are the pure accusative verbs. So let's move ahead. Here are a few sentences. Peter nimmt seinen Computer. That is, Peter takes his computer. Peter is the first identity subject. Another identity is seinen Computer. And nehmen, that is to take, is a pure accusative verb. So my object, seinen Computer, will be accusative. Computer is their computer. So their changes to den, ein changes to einen, mine changes to meinen, sein changes to seinen. On the same grounds, Maria besucht ihren reichen Onkel. That is, Maria visits her rich uncle. So her rich uncle is the object and Maria is subject. Besuchen is pure accusative verb. So I've used up accusative for the object, that is ihren reichen Onkel. Next one, Gift s is again a pure accusative verb. Gift s meaning is there is or there are. So what is the sentence? Is there a balcony in the flat? If I put it up, tell me the subject and object. After is gift, there comes always an object. So this is your object, einen Balkon. Balkon is their balkon. So in accusative, there changes to then. So gibt es einen Balkon is your object. And the last part, in deiner Wohnung, what is that? Is that the subject? Is that the object? What I will be following? Where I'll be going up? But very important, we discussed at the start, only before deiner Wohnung, what has come? There is a preposition. When I have a preposition in the sentence, never ever that comes into subject and object. So into the sentence as gift, that is subject, rather is gift. S is your subject, you might put it up, and einen Balkon is your object. Last one, wir haben viel den Mann gefragt. Here your verb is your fragen. Fragen is to ask, the sentence in the perfect tense. Okay, so we have questioned a lot to the man. So where is your subject and then man is your object. If in the simple present tense it had been sentence, that is where fragen feel then man, that is we question a lot to the man. So where is your subject and then Man is your object, and for the object, I have used up accusative. Why? Because I have a pure accusative verbs which I have discussed with you into the earlier slide. So let's move ahead now. So till now, what we have discussed is the subject and object. With that, we discussed the few examples of only the subject case. Then we went ahead for the object case, that was accusative. The accusative differences in the article system, that is there changes to then, ein changes to einen, and here the list. And after the list, we came here into the examples. But now, further onto this slide, I am taking you to the journey of dative case. Now, for the dative case, that is for the object, I am using dative case. I repeat, for the subject, I was using nominative. Till now, we were using, that is for the object, accusative, but now here there is a bit change, that is for the object, I am also using the dative case. So when accusative, when dative, so we'll be discussing that here. But here, what is the article system? For that, I have made up a table for you. So what is the article system? For masculine, it is them, man. Feminine der Frau, neutral dem Mann, plural den Eltern. So that is them, their, them, then. On the same lines, einem, einer, einem. On the same grounds, meinem Vater, meiner Mutter, meinem Mädchen, and meinen Kindern, because we add n or en to the noun into the plural. So that will be meinen Kindern. So here into the dative case, there is a total different article system. So guys will have to remember the article system. So with the same thought, let's move ahead and discuss few examples. For the object case, I am using a dative. Now, into the earlier sentences, earlier slides rather, we discussed, that is for the object, I'll be using accusative, and here I am. Here I am, that is into the object case, that is dative case. For the object, I am using a dative case. Why and how come? Because the difference is coming up is these verbs, that is danken, helfen, gefallen, gratulieren, they are pure dative verbs. So when I have these pure dative verbs into the entire German, there are hardly some 8 to 10. So few verbs I have listed for you. So they are pure dative. So into these pure dative verbs, I will be using pure dative case, that is them, there, them, then. And when I have those pure accusative preposition, pure accusative verbs, like for example, haben, nehmen, essen, brauchen, nehmen, and all. So I'll be using up accusative. So let's first check it out. The list I have for you is the object case, that is the dative case. The first one is your danken verb, that is to thank, helfen to help, gefallen to like, gratulieren to congratulate, and etc. So here I have a few sentences for you. The first sentence is hilft Peter dem Mann. So helfen is your pure dative verb. Peter is your subject and them man is your object. Now into this sentence I am using, that is dative case, because my verb is pure dative verb. On the same grounds, if for example I put it up a sentence is thrift Peter then man. Now into this sentence, pay attention very carefully. What are we discussing is Peter is subject, then man is object. Here also Peter is subject, then man is your object. But here into the earlier sentence that is then man is your accusative. Here then man is your dative. Why here accusative? Why dative? Because the referent verb to meet is your accusative verb. Here helfen is your pure dative verb. So here, on the same grounds, die Pizza schmeckt dem Mädchen gut. That is, the girl likes the pizza or the pizza tastes good to the girl. So dem Mädchen is your object. On the same grounds, pizza is your subject. On the same lines, S gate, that is, we had seen this S gate, how are you? So, how does it go well with your mother in Pune? So, after S gate comes up your dative case. So, if you might remember when I put it up, how are you? What do I put it up as? We get S enen. When I come up with we get S enen, what is that? We get S enen after we get as enen, or it can be we get as dear. That is with you. After S gate comes up the dative case. So what is the sentence here is S gate plus dative. So does it go good with your mother? Deiner Mutter is your object, and for the object I am using up is dative case because S gate plus dative is there. You would see that is sir पुणे subject है क्या object है sorry पुणे is neither subject nor object because before Pune in has come that is in preposition. The last one Sie danken ihrem Lehrerin, that is they thank their teacher for the help. Now here Z is your subject, ERM later is your object, that is in dative object, masculine. So that is in the masculine I have a them later, I name later, my name later, and accordingly ERM later, that is your object. And the last one for the helper, that is for the help. So here fear is the preposition. So the helper will neither be a subject nor an object. So with this, I will be going ahead onto the last one. So till now, what we have discussed is the nominative, the accusative, the dative, and now let's move ahead. The last slide where I have up is the object case. That is for the object I have up accusative and dative. That is the case of two object verbs. When I come up with the two object verbs, please understand that two objects verbs are, that is for example I give something to someone, I show something to someone. I send something to someone. So there are two objects into it. So whenever I have a two object verbs, so there are some 8 to 10 verbs. So now, so object case that is two object verbs. So one is living and one is non-living. I send something to someone. I give something to someone. I show something to someone. When I say something, something is something denoting or indicating that is non living, and someone indicates that is living. So, for the living, I will be using dative. And for the non-living, I'll be using accusative. So let's check up few sentences. Zeigen is to show something to someone. So, zeigt der Verkäufer der Frau die Uhr? Does the salesman show the lady the watch? So there are two objects into the sentence. Verkäufer is your subject. For the subject, I have used a nominative. But here, der Frau, die Uhr, they both are objects. For one, I have used up accusative, so one I have used up dative. So die Uhr is your non-living. For the non-living accusative, die Frau, that is your living. So die Frau, that is, I'll be using up dative here. So die Frau will be changing to der Frau. So that is your dative case. On the same lines, Maria schrieb. Schrieb is actually that is wrote. It is a preteritum form, the past tense form of schreiben, that is to write. So Maria writes a letter, sorry, Maria wrote a letter to her brother. Maria subject, nominative, ihrem Bruder object. Again, the object is that is living, living dative. Einen Brief, that is a letter. Non-living, for the non-living object, I'll be using up here is accusative. Please understand in which case I'm using up that is non-living accusative, living dative only and only when I have up two object verbs like here zeigen to show something to someone, schreiben to write something to someone. Here on the next one, that is erzählen. Erzählen is to narrate, narrate something to someone. Here in the last one, leihen. So Lahian is to lend something to someone. Only into this case I will be using that is living, dative, non-living, accusative. Please into the earlier sentences you cannot say that is into the verbs like pure accusative, pure dative. I'll apply this rule of living and non-living. Sorry, living and non-living rule will be only and only applying in the case of double object or two object verbs. So here into the third sentence, Peter narrates a joke to the kids. So Peter is your subject, the kids that is your object. Which object? Dative object because it is living. Einen wird accusative, non-living. On the same grounds, Mr. Peter haben seinen Freund einen Tisch geliehen. That is, Mr. Peter has lent a table to his friend. Lahien to lend is your double object verb. So here also again living and non-living. Seinen Freund object, that is a living one. So here it has to be seinem. So here by mistake I have that is it will be seinem. Seinem Freund, einen Tisch, that is einen Tisch, again your object, but this object will is a non-living, so I am using up accusative. So please understand till now the linkage into these sentences, that is subject nominative, object, accusative or dative. But when accusative, when dative, till now what we have understood is depending on the verbs. So if my verb is pure accusative, I'll be using the accusative table, the accusative cases and all. If I have up a dative verb, I'll be using up the dative cases and all. And if I have the double object verbs, so into that living and non-living accordingly we'll go ahead. So it is very much expected by the kids to study the pure accusative verbs, pure dative verbs, and the double object verbs so that it will be easier for you to make up and go ahead and master the German. And now I conclude my session. But very, very important, do not forget that there is another video on the prepositions. When I have prepositions, so before the noun, that never ever comes into the case of subject and object. There is a total different criteria about prepositions. So I have another video on prepositions, that is pure accusative prepositions, pure dative prepositions, and common prepositions, that is totally different. So here I will be concluding my session. So I have mentioned my email ID, and for any queries, it will be a pleasure to help you out. Yeah, you can put up into the comments your questions, so I'll be reverting back to your comments. And please subscribe so that whatever new videos I will be putting up onto YouTube, it will be easier for you to go through and explore your knowledge regarding German. So that's all. Thank you. Bye.